Welcome everyone. I'm Farooq Sularia. I'm moderator of this webinar and I'm editor of Daily Jeddojehad or Daily Struggle in English. Let me welcome you all as audience and let me also welcome our honorable panelists. The aim of this webinar today is to look at the US-Israeli war on Iran as well as a parallel conflict that is taking place in the case of Pakistan's invasion of Afghanistan. Some 10 days ago, Pakistan also declared war on Afghanistan in response to the, what they call safe havens provided to Pakistani Taliban. The aim of this webinar is also to develop a kind of strategy, a resistance, a sort of international solidarity, where we also bring forces from the region in contact with each other. And I think it is only this kind of solidarity that we really need to stop such international conflicts, such wars that are increasingly happening internationally. In last about 4 years, we have seen number of wars. First, one major war was the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We have seen 2-year-long Israeli genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. We have seen a warlike situation in Venezuela, where the president of the country was kidnapped. Maybe Cuba next. We have also seen war in Sudan, where, two rich countries from the Gulf, they are responsible for the bloody conflict that is going on, rendering millions homeless, hundreds and thousands of deaths and misery. To discuss this situation, we have Comrade Nazneen from the USA. She recently wrote an excellent article on the situation in Iran. That article was posted on the website of New Politics, and a journal run by our American comrades. We have Hoshang Sepeher. He's member of the Anti-Capitalist Party in France, originally from Iran. He's based in Paris. He's also involved for many years in solidarity work with movements in Iran, with trade unions in Iran, and quite active in building solidarity for Iran among the French trade unions. To speak about situation in Afghanistan, we have Dr. Orzala Nemat. She is presently based in the UK. She has a long, history of struggle for women's rights, for women education in Afghanistan. She's a researcher. She has a PhD in development studies from School of Oriental and African Studies. She is quite well-known name from Afghanistan internationally. Previously, before the second takeover of Afghanistan by Taliban, she was heading a big research group, kind of think tank in Kabul. We also have Dr. Sabah Gul Khattak. She's based in Islamabad. The mention of Sabah Gul Khattak reminds me that today was March 8. She was part of the March 8, this rally in Islamabad where some of the organizers were arrested by police, and she was involved there. She just joined. Welcome everyone. But before I move on, let me also thank Comrade Thomas Rieger, based in Hamburg, who is facilitating this webinar. We will begin by 10 minutes intervention by every panelist. We will begin with Orzala, then we will have Comrade Nazneen, Comrade Hoshang, finally Dr. Sabah Gul Khattak. After their interventions, we will have a possibility of Q&A. I will prefer that the friends who are watching, listening this webinar, they send us their questions through chat room. Okay, without wasting any further time in introduction and such kind of niceties, I would ask Dr. Orzala Nemat to let us know the situation in Afghanistan.
Hello, everyone. Good day. Thank you, Farouk. It's a great pleasure and honor to be with you on this rather historical day, but saddening situation that we are. I'd like to start with extending my deepest and heartfelt condolences to the people of Iran for the losses of casualties during this insane kind of war that everyone knows the result will be nothing better than what we have already been experiencing and suffering in that region, and particularly in that country. So, my condolences to the civilian losses in Iran, my condolences to the people of Afghanistan for losing their innocent lives as well, being targeted to this unending regional conflicts that are having different causes. And I'd like to also take this opportunity and congratulate everyone, every woman in today's session, and everyone who's listening. The 8th of March, the International Women's Day, it's of course a symbolic day for all of us, historically speaking. But for Afghanistan, it's becoming part of the culture. And I can tell you that despite what I'm going to explain about the situation of people in Afghanistan, this is a common custom now that you would receive tons of messages and greetings on this day. It's quite ironic in the same time because I don't get these messages and greetings from my British or American or Western friends, but I get it more from Afghanistan, the depth of where the term women's rights is going to evade very soon, unfortunately, from the common vocabularies of the state or the situation that is experienced by people. So, as the focus of the conversation here today is the current conflict and tensions ongoing in Afghanistan, between Afghanistan and Pakistan, I thought I will use the few minutes that I have to focus on raising the root causes of this conflict. As we all know, I'm sorry, you may hear a bit of a background. Can you go to that other room, please? Sorry, I'm with kids and you will. My apologies if you hear the background noise. I try my best to take care of it. So the root causes of this conflict is mainly to do with issues around security and ongoing conflict militancy and the support of radicalization. At the same time, there is a historical issue between Afghanistan and Pakistan about the Durand line. And that is to do with Afghanistan never being ready to recognize this historical border. And finally, the political tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan, particularly with any leadership, including the very Taliban that was created by Pakistan, and the issue of trade. Sorry, I have to ask my child to stop this background. Just give me one moment, please. My apologies. So overall, as we know, in today's Afghanistan, this conflict is getting a much more intensification. The reasons could be different for it, but one of the main reasons is that the world that was keeping a very close eye on Afghanistan in the recent history is now busy with other wars and other conflicts that are emerging, that have just emerged now. And that is allowing the regional countries, as historically seen in Afghanistan in the late 90s as well, to just do whatever they want and whatever suits their political interests. On the Pakistan side, what is quite evident is this issue of the TTP that is being repeatedly mentioned, that, okay, so how to deal with the issue of the TTP and Taliban providing a safe sanctuary. There are lots of questions to be raised here. One on the top of everything is that how TTP came to an existence and who is behind it. And other than anyone else, there are excellent Pakistani scholars and human rights researchers who are talking about it and saying that actually TTP is also a product of this very same establishment who is now bombarding Afghan civilians against it. So I think when we discuss about today's conflict, it's very important to have this historical and political lens as well. And at the same time, in terms of seeking ways out of this as we move forward, I think there is no other time than now to see how important it is to strengthen the solidarity of democratic forces within these countries, whether it is Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, or this immediate region and neighborhood. That this is the time to strengthen that solidarity. That I, unfortunately, as a personal observation, I can say that I see is evading, and the world that is so much is happening. This solidarity needs to be refreshed, re-strengthened, and the way forward, the only way forward we can see is to seek solutions to the root causes by conversation, by speaking, and by taking practical actions to first and foremost in the radicalization and Islamic fundamentalism in this region, and then come to terms about other issues that we all are facing. And as much as it is sad to see the world in complete collapse and chaos, but one opportunity that is existing right now, I think, in our region is that because the superpowers are so busy trying to survive themselves, we have an opportunity as a region to emerge and to have that push towards a more independent and standing on its own feet type of a situation than any other time in the contemporary context. I think probably my 10 minutes are ended. Apologies for the background. This is 8th of March, as my colleagues were mentioning before, and I hope that you're able to follow my conversation. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Ursula. Indeed insightful. And I was just thinking of a viral video a few years ago when there was an academic and his kid comes running behind and his Thai wife takes it away. Let's hope our webinar goes viral as well for some reason. Anyway, very insightful, and thanks a lot. I will now hand over the mic to Comrade Nazneen. Over to you, Nazneen. You have to unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. Sending you all peace and care. I'm just going to be transparent. I found out about this a little bit last minute, so I'm going to more speak organically than have a lot of really pre-planned items, but I'm hoping to still learn from you all and share what I've been noticing and my general thoughts. So when I was invited to this panel, I was asked to summarize a feminist perspective regarding Iran. And I think that's a pretty challenging proposition because right now Iran is very governed by very polarizing narratives, polarizing figures um, that are saying this is if you believe in feminism, you do this. If you want freedom for Iran, you do this. If you're against war, you do this. And I want to try to break down some of these factions and how they might speak about feminism. Um, so at the top, at the most visible right now, you see the very pro-Pahlavi crowd. Um, and even within that, there are divisions. I mean, there's a lot of unity they're projecting because it's part of their strategy, but you see like there's the MIGA movement, Make Iran Great Again movement, and these people will be complete Trump apologists. Um, and they'll like I don't really want to dwell on them too much because I think they're very reactionary. But also at the same time, within this pro-Pahlavi coalition, you might see people that aren't conventionally conservative and might have some feminist views and see this unified strategy of getting Pahlavi and trying to force him onto a transition leader as the only way to really liberate Iran because they are not a majority, but I'm pretty sure they are a plurality of Persians and likely the ones with the most ability to get rallies together, the most ability to organize people around a single narrative, around a legislative issue. Um, and so at the top of this coalition, you'll see figures like Masih Alinejad, who's has like a huge Instagram following, and she is I would say she is completely honed in on Iran. Like she'll make a lot of good points documenting the regime's crimes, documenting the situation of political prisoners, but they are also very committed to Iranian or specifically Persian liberation only, and will almost never talk about anyone else's struggle and will defer to the pro-Pahlavi crowd. And she'll go on Fox News and say, a little bit more reluctantly than some other figures, because um, there has been some backlash against her because I don't know what she said specifically, because she has been in the coalition, but she has said some things that has made pro-Pahlavi supporters online troll her and harass her. And then you'll see some lesser known, but gradually, like figures gaining gradually more prominence. Like there, I think of Ella Laban, who has a growing Instagram following, and someone named Goldie, and they're very prominent and pursue this narrative that like you want a free Iranian woman, come support these pro-Shah rallies. It's the only way. It's the only way. And then even within the pro-Pahlavi current, where you see people at these protests, not everyone is completely on board with the agenda and how it appears, but they might say they're less likely to say Crown Prince Pahlavi. They're less likely to say we want a monarch. They will say Pahlavi will be a transition leader. And they're confident because Pahlavi has promised a referendum within the first 3 months of his rule to choose if we want to be Iran is going to be a constitutional monarchy or a republic, which I think is a little bit manipulative because it's going to be a pro-war um, like a post-war situation. Um, there's not going to be any other political party, so it's going to be the pro-Pahlavi crowd flooding the airways with their media, saying constitutional monarchy is the only way forward. There's not going to be any like verification for people in Kurdish areas, Loristani areas, Baluch areas on the peripheries to make sure their vote is being counted. So they're really trying to force this infrastructure. So I would say there's an element of the pro-Pahlavi current that is not necessarily completely monarchist or conservative, but I would say partially gullible or like resentfully hopeful in that there will be a big change coming up. Um, and then one thing that surprises me a lot is the amount of silence, and I assume because of political pressure from other prominent Iranian feminists. Like, um, I have not seen Marjan Satrapi, the person who wrote Paris Police, write anything public because I don't think she would generally fit into the pro-Pahlavi current. Nasrin Sotoudeh has been a major activist. I haven't seen her post anything. And I think there's a reason for this in that the pro-Pahlavi crowd is very much our way or the highway, and they are known for organizing online hate attacks, including misogynist attacks towards anyone that speaks out against them. They're mass reporting accounts. There are some people hiring lawyers to deal with the mass reporting. And then the last class of feminist current that I mean, there's more, but I'll also talk about there's a growing number of independent feminists that are primarily on Instagram because Instagram is where a lot of young people post, and they're starting to talk about, articulating this position of being anti-regime and anti-intervention. Like you'll see Audi Hanarvad or another person I follow named Yegane, and they post some good materials. But a weakness I find with these pages is that they will say this position, I'm anti-regime, anti-intervention, and then it kind of stops right there. It's like it's only an Instagram handle. And I've even reached out to a couple of them trying to like see if maybe we could organize something. And there's generally crickets for the most part. Um, and I would say the boldest like feminist perspective are the ones that you don't see. These are people with like 3,000 followers or less on Instagram. And we're trying to organize strategy. We're trying to find a coherent narrative. We're trying to uplift the work of labor unions or which are a lot of men, but then you'll see when there's crises, like teachers collectives will organize in Iran and form drives. You see that even right now, student groups in Iran, some of them are pro-Pahlavi, but there are, and this is very censored in Iranian media, there will be a lot of chants in every university and statements saying no to intervention, no to the mullahs, and no to Pahlavi. And they almost get no coverage in media like Iran International. And so, what I think a lot of people don't understand about Iranian resistance, because a lot of people campus will look at this and side with the regime, or at least kind of like look the other way and say, well, we don't want intervention. Because there's not one single left-wing party that you can look at and say, if I want to support the left, this is what I want to do. If you want to support the left in Iran, it's going to involve work. It's going to involve kind of understanding this dynamic movement. So you see these labor strikes that come up, and then the government will send a ton of troops, and then they disappear, and the website disappears, and it'll go blank. And you have to kind of have a lot of vigilance to follow. But if you add up all these struggles that have been documented on independent media, you'll see that Iran does have an active labor movement, does have an active social movement. Also, there's a lot more political activity on the peripheries, like in Kurdish areas especially, but there's more Baluchi and Luristani activism slowly making its way to the internet, documenting these local committees. And so what we see is that Iranian diaspora has put most of them have put most of their faith in Reza Pahlavi and his ability to negotiate an alliance with Israel and the US and promising they won't kill way too many civilians. And they're believed that if they just swallow this one bitter pill now, then Iran will be free and it'll all have been worth it in the end. But then you see that there are alternatives. And if there was organizing that could actually build a progressive party or a left-wing party, being able to follow, track, and even support these struggles, which might be a combination of public and secretive activism, like funding safe houses for unions when they need to go into hiding, um, or like funding the unions themselves, or meeting with labor activists. And another thing I think is missing from this discussion, which I think is great to be on this panel, is a lot of people don't really have a great analysis for how the Iranian regime uses global capitalism to sustain itself. And so Iranians have this narrative right now that like we're alone in this, there's no one else here. But then you see the way the Iranian regime is kind of tied into Afghanistan's politics, Iraq's politics, or Pakistan's politics. And we see that these struggles we're very falling into this nationalist idea, like we're Iranians, we're alone. Um, Afghan people probably have their own sense of feeling alone in this struggle. Maybe Pakistani feminists as well. I don't know. I don't know the narratives of those cultures, but I think understanding that we're not alone and that like if we join together as a collective, we could find creative ways to disrupt it. And I think that's what being like a leftist or progressive will mean right now is not necessarily being fixed on one outcome because that will lead you either to the Pahlavi coalition and intervention or campism and weird false solidarity with like authoritarian figures in the regime who are members of the Iran's ruling class, but rather solidarity with a concept and gradually building a coalition with people who are free, who you don't have an easy answer, but you'll have to commit to building a strategy with these principles. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Ursula took less time and I donated her time to you. Thanks a lot. You finished very much on time. I will now ask Comrade Roshan Sepeher, who is member of the Anti-Capitalist Party in France. Over to you, Comrade Sepeher. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hello, everybody again. I have not prepared anything for today because I was not sure that I could be able to participate in this today because, you know, we are very busy about setting up a campaign against the war in Paris. And the situation in France is different from the other countries in Europe. And that's why we are, the things you see in London or in United States about the Pahlavi and Iranian regime, you do not see in Paris. It's very different. I'll give you an example. The biggest manifestation rally against the Iranian regime that was organized in Paris was organized by the left, not by the right or monarchist. Everybody outside of Paris, in London, in California, in United States, the huge rally are organized by the monarchists. That is the difference. And that gives us a chance to work differently. That we are involved in the work with the trade unions and left parties. And I think today is the 8th of March, but everything is centered around the war, fighting against the war. I'm not sure that you are very familiar with what is happening exactly in Iran. And I give you an example that people maybe haven't heard about it. The first day in the war, I think today is the 9th day of the war. The first day, the American bombarded a school in south of Iran, and they killed 185 schoolgirls, and nobody talks about it. When 4 or 5 or 6 American soldiers are killed in the Gulf countries, everybody talks about it. And that's an example. But what I am asking you, try to concentrate about doing something about the war in your country, setting up campaign. I know it is difficult. We have a lot of opposition, like monarchies against us, but I think we can do something. I would like you to ask me the question instead of me talking about the other things, because the situation is very I don't see you. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes, we
I
do.
can,
Yes, we do. We hear you.
okay, okay. The line is returned. Okay. I am prepared. I am ready to answer your question, because talking about the generality is not of help for us today. There are urgent questions.
Thanks a lot, Comrade Sapeher. We have a lot of questions to ask, actually, especially, in context of Pakistan as well. And internationally, there is a lot of debate in Pakistani left as well. There is support for the regime by the campus. There is, this kind of critical position taken by many people. Anyway, we'll come to that in a while when we have Q&A session. Now, it's over to Dr. Sabah Gul Khatak. She sent a message. Her internet is not very stable, but let me ask if she hears us. Dr. Sabah, do you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear.
Yes, we can hear you. You do not have to switch on your camera. We can hear you, and I understand the internet problems in Pakistan.
Can you
Now
hear
we
me?
can see you as well. We can see you as well.
Okay, I just wanted to show my face, but I will turn off the video because I'm not sure how long it will be stable. I will quickly begin. Or Farooq, you want to ask the question?
I think you better speak for about 10 minutes or whatever your internet allows, and then we'll come back to you with questions.
Okay. I just wanted to make like 3 points. First of all, that this idea of regime change does not work. It did not work in Iran. It has not worked in Afghanistan. In Iran, when the prime minister was changed, Prime Minister Mossadegh, ever since it has not worked. In Afghanistan in 1979, when the USSR decided that the regime that was there needs to be kept intact. After that, nothing has really worked. And so Pakistan's recent announcement of regime change will not work. And we all know that, and we all condemn this idea. Even if the Taliban are there, even if we don't like them, it is for the Afghans to change their regime. It is not for Pakistan or any other foreign power to change that. This message needs to be very, very clear. The other part I wanted to talk about was Pakistan's informal but very much like a constant policy that informs all its short-term policies is its strategic depth policy, which is that it will keep a friendly government in Afghanistan so that its interests are safeguarded. And especially this was supposed to work against India because Pakistan does not have a lot of depth, so Afghanistan was supposed to provide that depth. And in that context, after the Russian intervention in Afghanistan and with US, together with the US, Pakistan has helped or waged the war with the Mujahideen, with the CIA. Our ISI was involved in it. But in 1996, it sent the Taliban because after 1992, when the Mujahideen took over in Afghanistan from the pro-Soviet Union-backed Najibullah regime, there was civil war, and for 4 years, it wasn't clear. And then Pakistan comes up with the idea of the Taliban. So it sent the Taliban, or at least it aided a lot of the Taliban who were trained in Pakistan, together with Pakistanis to take over government. I used to interview refugee women in the late 90s, and some of them would ask me, if the Taliban are Pushtun, why do they speak Punjabi? Which means that if they are from the same ethnicity that is from Afghanistan and in neighboring Pakistan, then Punjabi is not a language that they should be speaking. So obviously there were Punjabis, and Ursula can talk about that also. In 1996, after that, after 9/11, Pakistan closed its borders for refugees to come into Pakistan, but under international pressure, it opened them. Again, after the Taliban took over for the second time in 2021 August, Pakistan announced that everything is peaceful now in Afghanistan, and it closed its borders to the refugees who were fleeing Afghanistan. So once again, Pakistan announced that it was peaceful, therefore refugees will not be entertained. It announced that Afghanistan, through the Taliban, there were celebrations in Pakistan at the official level, informally, that the Taliban have broken the shackles of slavery and foreign domination. But a few years down the line, Pakistan has now said that the Taliban are the worst people, and that the TTP, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, is being protected inside. It has sanctuaries inside Afghanistan, and last year alone there were 1,000 people who were affected in the attacks in Pakistan. I think, was it, Farooq, 1,000 people who died, who suffered through the different attacks, 1,000 TTP attacks in Pakistan. This year, when the attack happened in Islamabad, you see, there is a center-periphery relationship, I think. And when the periphery gets hit, the border areas get hit, it does not affect mainstream Pakistan. And even last night, there was a suicide bombing in one of our bordering districts with Afghanistan, where 15 people died. It was just before Aftari. When there are deaths in the borderland, which is the periphery, that is still taken in its stride. But when the center gets hit, that calls for retaliation. And of course, we also know, and there are rumors, not just rumors, people are asserting that Pakistan, when it attacked Afghanistan this time, it was also to take, divert attention from the US attack on Iran, which was under preparation because Pakistan attacked one day before, and also the fact that it attacked Bagram Air Base, where a lot of the weapons and so on that the Americans had left behind were stored, is also at the behest of the US. I personally think it is also at Pakistan's own behest, because when I went for a fact-finding mission to our neighboring province with Afghanistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the police was complaining that the Taliban have the latest weapons. We have old weapons. We cannot fight them with our old weapons. So I think here the interests of both the US and Pakistan converged. There were, I think, 65 times of negotiations that were being conducted through Iran and Qatar and Turkey, but Pakistan declared open war. This war is not going to be helpful for either side. There are civilian casualties on both sides, in Afghanistan also, and we usually say innocent lives were lost. If people are not innocent, it is still not fair to take their life. So lives are lost, whether innocent or not is besides the point. They're civilians, they have nothing to do with war, and they should not be killed, period. We have a lot of displacement in KP. These displacements have gone on for over 20 years. Some people are permanently displaced. I'm sorry, should I end? I'll just conclude.
No, I think it is someone else who is. Comrade Sushman, could you please mute yourself? Sorry, Dr. Sava. Go on, please.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to say that ordinary people have suffered on both sides of the border, and whether it is refugees in Pakistan, whether it is the xenophobia that we see very, very blatantly these days. There are tweets in which Pakistanis are celebrating that Pakistan sent women pilots to bomb the Taliban who look down on women. But, this kind of masculinist, ugly, xenophobic politics, it doesn't help. The Pakistanis are stooping very, very low to say that, okay, women are nothing and we are sending them to bomb Afghanistan. Hello. What kind of, this is just nauseating. Then there's all kinds of other xenophobia with songs being produced against Afghans, racism on open display, refugees being humiliated. There has been, together with Iran, after Iran, well, much before Iran, but Iran also started to deport Afghans very massively after the previous attack from Israel, blaming everything on the Afghans. And Pakistan has been blaming all its issues on Afghan refugees. So Afghan refugees these days in Pakistan are worse off. They're being just picked up from their homes, just like ICE does. The police barges into their homes, gets them, puts them in vehicles, sends them to detention centers. It has closed the border with Afghanistan. People who come for medical treatment are not being issued visas. Visas is also another sort of side business, but informally a huge business in Pakistan. Because when Afghan refugees entered Pakistan, there were 800,000 of them after the Taliban takeover in 2021. Most of them did not have visas. They crossed over illegally by bribing the border security forces. Imagine the kind of bribery that must have exchanged hands. Okay, not everyone, each and every person of the 800,000 was illegal or crossed illegally, but a majority certainly did because they were fleeing. Um, and many of them, when they're picked up, sent back, many of them who have to go abroad, they have to pay for visas so they can be legal here. Initially, the visa informal fee was $500 to $600. Later, that became, after the deportation policy started in November 2023, it became about $1,000 to $1,200, and these days, before visas were closed completely, it had gone up to $1,800 per visa. Officially, the visa costs, I think, maybe $20 or $60. I don't remember, but $1,800, my God. And that's what Afghans have to pay. And so, while the movement of people is formally restricted, uh, there's a lot of money to be made in the informal market, and I just thought I should flag this. This is an issue. There's an informal economy around wars, around displacement, around legality of refugees. I won't go into other details, but these are the issues that refugees face, and it's very, very difficult because all of us who work on human rights, when we appeal to the government, everything has fallen on deaf ears. No advocacy has worked in the case of anyone. Maybe some bribery works at that individual level when the police picks you up, but even they are under orders not to take any bribes. So while they may have made money, these days things have become very ugly. And my last point is that when you humiliate someone, that is not, and with the kind of xenophobia on display, with the kind of treatment of refugees or asylum seekers on display, this is not forgotten. This humiliation stays on. As we have seen, the partition trauma has been passed intergenerationally in Pakistan. Similarly, the trauma of refugees is not going to be restricted to them. Their children were born there, their grandchildren were born on this land. When you push them back into a country that they hardly know, that humiliation, that deep wound stays on intergenerationally. So we need to be more responsible in how we treat human beings. I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabagul Khatak. It was indeed insightful. And thanks for bringing up the question of Afghan refugees. Ironically, both Pakistan and Iran, which claim to be Islamic republics, and they keep talking about Ummah and Muslim Brotherhood, they treated Afghans very badly. I also keep pointing out to the supporters of Ayatollah in Pakistan when they speak about Ayatollah's Iran regime's support for Palestine. I would tell them if Palestinians had ended up as refugees in Iran, then there would have been no Palestine cause for the mullahs. Now we are very much on time. We managed to finish on time. All the speakers were restricting their interventions to 10 minutes. I will open the house for a Q&A. Any questions that you have, you can ask them directly, but kindly raise your hand or send your question through the chat room. If there is no question immediately, I will actually ask first a question to both our Iranian friends. And maybe meantime, the participants can frame their question. Well, the biggest debate perhaps everywhere in the world is how to support the people of Iran, because there are two kinds of opinions. One, people like on the left, people like us who would not support the Iranian regime, but they oppose the war. At the same time, they want to support the Iranian people. But what should be the attitude to the resistance being offered by the Iranian regime? That is the question that is being debated. So first, maybe Comrade Nasrin can respond, and then Comrade Hoshang. Kindly unmute yourself, Nasrin.
Sorry. Yeah, I think this is a challenging question. And it's been hard because even a lot of my own family members have kind of embraced intervention and at different degrees, where I have a couple family members that are starting to really believe in Trump versus a few other members that just feel like there needs to be some ugly situation that once they get through, they're gonna feel better. But I think the root of it is finding the capacity and coalition that can support different kinds of dynamic struggles. Um, and I think at the end of the day, I think like getting direct financial support to people on the ground, like if you have a sponsor, I don't have any connection, full disclosure. But like if you might have a sponsor or someone on the ground who can help build safe houses for these unions that are protesting or help with activities. I think getting material support to resistance as it exists, which is unfortunately hard to define because resistance isn't allowed in the US. So when there is resistance, it might be a union that appears one day and then disappears a week later because they have to for survival. Or there's some student groups that are always organizing, but they have to do a lot of their activities in secret. So I think the start of it, I like we can find these micro solutions when we have a coalition. But I think the root of it right now is we do not have a capable coalition. Like if you went to right now, the biggest anti-war group in the US is Answer. They host rallies in every city. They probably have the biggest anti-war coalition. But you would be so hard pressed to get a speech in there that would criticize the Iranian regime because there is just this almost like clownish devotion to anti-imperialism as a concept, but not as a lived practice where you can actually make it dynamic and respond to people's struggles. So I think one, disrupting these really toxic coalitions that exist right now. Like I would personally say like counter protest the answer people. I think, and there are people that believe in this, but I think there just hasn't been a lot of leadership and or funds to like organize rallies to really disrupt it. I think a lot of answers criticisms are online. And um, I think there's a need for a home to be built for people in the diaspora to start because that's where the most resistance can take place. And actually build a home, create coalition, create spaces and co-ops, and um, sometimes like wellness retreats will like during the Palestine, the most acute part of the Palestine crisis. There were a lot of healing collectives that were creating spaces for Palestinians to come, diffuse their trauma, try to strategize together. There has not been as much of that for the Iranian community. There's been a lot more disruptive, like just these really unproductive narratives on where everyone knows everything about Iran, but no one wants to take the time to do the work. So just building a home for activists that believe in no regime but no war, and finding like slogans that are like people power will break the regime, not intervention. I think that's the first step. I think the second step is to create these multi-ethnic coalitions that go beyond, well, I'm Iranian, let me find other Iranians. I think this panel is a great example where we're from three different ethnicities, and there's even more that we could build bridges on, especially on Iran's peripheries. Um, and find ways to coordinate actions across the globe. So a lot of Iranians will say, I don't really know what to do except go and support the pro-Pahlavi coalition. And I think the reason there are some people that are just hardcore conservatives and that's just their worldview. But I also think there's a lot of people that are not disposed to this kind of politics, but they just don't have a place to go when they believe this. So really creating spaces where we can collectively envision a future together would be helpful. Um, because I don't know a lot of direct solutions, but I feel like it's not on one person in an acute moment in a crisis to think of a solution. I think you have to also believe in the resilience of the human spirit to create solutions together. And you can't do that if you're not building coalitions, if you're not building a home for these ideas, and if you allow these polarized narratives to tell you this is the only way.
Thank you. Comrade Hoshang?
Regarding the war going on in Iran, there are three different lines. The first line, political line, I say, the line that is most of Iranian left who are abroad, they are not in Iran because they are in exile since 30, 40 years. Most of them are against the war, and they follow the usual left line on war. The other line, they call themselves third line. What they mean third line, that the one is for the regime, second line is the against the regime, but they are for reactionary imperialist regime. The third line is independent line, which fight the first and second line. That is the nearly official line of the left, Iranian left, outside of Iran. And recently, when I say recently, I mean since 3, 4 years, what is appearing is the movement called the monarchist, which did not exist before at all. There are two types of monarchists on abroad. Well, all I say is about the Iranian abroad. There are about 8 million Iranian abroad Iran, and depends on which wave of exile they came out. They are right or they are left. And the right didn't existed, but didn't show themselves since until 3 years ago. And very quickly, they organized themselves around a figure called son of the ex-Shah, Reza Pahlavi. There are two different politics regarding the son of the Shah. One comes from the Israel, which support directly and officially the son of the Shah. They got a lot of support, financial and media. But it's not the same thing from the American administration. American, just today, the Americans are not for regime change. They are for regime behavior change. They don't want to change the regime. They want they replace the regime with another faction of the regime that behaves differently. And it seems to me they haven't changed the politics until today. But the Netanyahu is trying to push the Trump to other side, and it means to me that he hasn't succeeded yet, and that this difference on the two politics between the American and Israeli politics reflects on the Iranian monarchists. There are some monarchists who are 100% for Netanyahu, and we call them fascist monarchists. They behave really like a fascist everywhere, in the manifestation, in the rally, in the street. They are, but there are some monarchists who calls for constitutional monarchy. They are behave differently, but the situation is not stable inside the monarchies. It depends how the war changes, how the situation inside Iranian situation change, and uh, it's very it's not stable. But what it is, that is the general view of what's going on outside of Iran regarding the Iranian politics. Inside of Iran, it's very difficult to say. We have contact with the trade unions in Iran, and since 20 years ago, with the frame of our association. For example, we have several times invited them to Paris for political uh, political meetings. And when I say we invited them, I mean the French trade union invited them. French trade union invited the Iranian syndicalists, Iranian trade unionists to come to Paris for a discussion. And when they returned most of them to the prison. The last time I talked to one of them, it was against 2 days before the new wave of bombarding. And he talked to me that with the he, he what he saw, I'm telling you what his impression from what he saw during the January manifestation in Iran, because there was a wave of manifestation in Iran before the war, and he was active in this manifestation. He said that some of people are for war because they say that it doesn't matter who kills us, either the regime kills us or the American bomb kills us. We have just we have just the regime. Let's try the American bomb. That's why I say to show you how the Iranian people thinks about the bomb and about the Iranian regime as well. And they are not monarchists. They are not for American politics. They are against the Iranian repression, but they have no other no other way of expressing their sentiment. The
Thank you.
situation is not very clear to me. For us, it's not very clear. With the blackout and the cutoff of the communication, it's very difficult to see. We have some information through one Iranian journalist who works for Radio Télévision Français. He's based in Tehran, and the only real information comes from him, because the other information are not very reliable. They are manipulated, most of them by the by new technology information, most of the video arrives in Europe are manipulated or doesn't show the real happening on Iran.
Thank you, comrade. Thanks for your insightful information and the description of the situation. Ursula, if you hear me, if you are there, I have a question for you. And I don't have any questions by the participants so far. In case there are no questions, I will ask myself another question to Dr. Sabah, and then maybe we can head for the sum ups. Ursula, do you hear me? Maybe Ursula is busy with the kids. Meantime, maybe I can ask Dr. Sabah. Dr. Sabah, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. There is a kind of trend among the Pashtun nationalists in Pakistan. They are kind of sporting the Taliban in the name of nationalism, Pashtun nationalism. Don't you think this is very sort of self-defeating strategy to start sporting Taliban in the name of Pashtun nationalism?
Honestly speaking, Farooq, I don't know of Pakhtun nationalists who are supporting the Taliban. But if you are saying it, then I'm sure there are. However, the National Democratic Party and the ANP that I know have not supported the Taliban. They condemn the Taliban, and many of the Pakhtun nationalists in the Pakhtun Tahaffuz movement are constantly saying, integrate us into Pakistan. We want full citizenship rights rather than being treated as, suspects with suspicion. So, but if the Pakhtun nationalists are indeed siding with the Taliban, then they're shooting themselves in the foot. And it is not something that anyone in their sane minds should be doing, because we know what the Taliban have done to their own country, to the women of their country, to the poor of their country, to just, to everyone, and sort of bringing back implicitly slavery. I was reading about this in the context of medieval India, in which people used to say that in famines and wars, it's okay to sell your children to avoid starvation. But for the Taliban to come up with similar ideas in this day and age, is just not palatable or acceptable under any circumstances. I don't know how anyone can support all this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabha. It's not any organized group. It's many sort of individuals posting their views on different social media platforms. I see Ursula back as well. Ursula, I want you to know the situation in Afghanistan, how people are responding to the Pakistani declaration of war on Afghanistan, how Taliban are responding. There is an impression in Pakistan as if Taliban are, getting public support for opposing Pakistan, given the fact that Pakistan and Iran, both countries actually are pretty unpopular in Afghanistan. What is your analysis?
Thank you, and my sincere apologies. Children are completely unpredictable, so I hope that this time I can at least have the line of conversations to move on with. First of all, Taliban having public support, I would humbly disagree with that, because if there is one day a state in Afghanistan that is fully having the full back of its people to wage a war against Pakistan, this war could become a massive war, because the public, particularly in the borderland areas, the public sentiments against Pakistan is very, very historic and it's powerful. So I don't think the Taliban have a lot of public support because of who they are. And earlier speaker, Dr. Khattak, was exactly explaining that in her remarks. So historically, knowing the Taliban's history with Pakistan, as being known as the creator of Taliban to begin with, as being known for providing the safe sanctuary for the Taliban, for running all the suicide attacks and violence that we've experienced for 20 years, the most intense war in probably many in comparative with the world, for being violent in a very specific period of time. So because of all those factors, even though there is a real war and there are real bombs being, put on people's houses, people still have doubts. Is this really a show that they are running, Taliban and Pakistani establishment, or is this a real war? So nobody is so far taking the war very serious in that sense. Then it comes to the Pakistan. So Pakistanis are trying their best with all the long history that they have and they had. As we speak, we also know that a lot of top Taliban leadership have businesses and money in the Pakistani accounts, and probably still their dual, like Pakistani passports in their pockets. So for that reason too, people are having hard time to trust that this is a real a kind of thing that is happening. And so the public support is not there. But of course, they use the propaganda machinery. They use the sort of like building the public opinion. As I mentioned, I used my initial remarks to sort of like bring in the historical context. I think that is important for us. It's not about, the hideouts of the TTPs or, Taliban not accepting the Pakistani wishes. And it's interesting because what I hear from the Taliban authorities, I mean, everyone knows who I am and my position against the Taliban. But then when you hear them talking and complaining that why you're not coming into a construction conversation with Pakistan to solve this issue, they were like, can you imagine what they're asking for us? They ask us not to be independent in our foreign policies towards India or any other country. So, I mean, the worst of all that we can imagine are Taliban as a regime. Even for them, it's not acceptable what Pakistan wishes from the Afghan state. So it's an unending war that will never get anywhere closer. And when it comes to the issue of the Pashtun nationalists or the Pashtun, the PTM movements, I think they have also cleared their positions, at least in the past that I have followed their position. I haven't seen how they see the current sort of like phase of war, that they are on the side of the people on both sides of the border, or not on the Afghan side of the border. They are on the side of the people, not on the side of the Taliban. We know everyone in the Pakhtunkhwa area of Pakistan, or even in the Balochistan areas of Pakistan that are neighbored with Afghanistan, they all know the Taliban atrocities against women, the Taliban's atrocities against those who do not agree with their policies is very clear. So it will be hard to see that the progressive movement in these regions will be supportive of Taliban. But when it comes to the Pakistan side, I think they are desperate. The establishment is desperate because they feel that they are paranoid with this Indian influence in Afghanistan. And it's a fact the Taliban are building the relations with India, even though the Taliban don't have the legitimacy, globally speaking, or even nationally speaking, but they are a de facto authority. So based on that, they are building these relations with India. And that also sort of like paranoids Pakistan. But on targets that they have used, to me, it seems that it's very much, I think somebody from the speakers were also saying, this war, this phase of war, to me, is not really the way that I also look at it is not that it's actually the war to create a solution. It's more to keep Afghanistan and the Taliban in Afghanistan engaged with this line of violence and managing their military capabilities to be more targeted towards Pakistan in this area, whereas the Taliban, as potential ally of the Islamic Republic of Iran, is not also involved in that war to sort of like provide any kind of support to the Iranian regime, because we all know as well that the Taliban regime has built quite a relatively, I would say, strong relations with well, within the Taliban regime, with some elements of the Taliban. You know, the Iran and Taliban are sort of getting along very well. And for Afghanistan, I mean, beyond the politics, if we speak, the trading situation that is existing now, we know that there are, you know, tens and thousands of convoys still stuck in the borders, in the ports, because of this ongoing war and the closure of borders. And unfortunately, being a landlocked country, Iranian borders, Uzbekistan border is much smaller, are the only routes that food comes in, and the most important sort of like basic needs, kind of needs of people are met through this border. So that also important. So this to us is more to do with this broader conflict on the orders of the big powers. We know the influence of America on the Pakistani state. We know the influence of other powerful countries on the Pakistani state, and it's to be seen more on that light at the moment than anything that would actually result, because they are targeting businesses. They've targeted this morning in Torkham, they've targeted the market there. So what the market is doing with actually like dismantling the Taliban regime or something. And I also want to say that I'm fully in support and in agreement of the idea in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, or anywhere in the world, no external power can and should be expected to change regime. These are things that we've seen it, and that's why I say for anyone in Iran who've also like supported this, I understand Mr. Sapir saying that some Iranians were reaching to the point of saying that if you're killed by the regime, let us be killed also by the outside powers. But I mean, I remind my Iranian friends inside Iran as well that, well, don't ever, I know that you are reaching to that point, but don't ever expect anything better, because look at your surroundings, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan. Which one of us were able to survive this insane military operations? And it's like, look at how the military operations are targeting against the infrastructure and the economy, and not the actual, the regime that is supposed to be, creating trouble for people of its own nation. Thanks.
Ursula, there is a question for you in a while. It's by Shima Kirmani. Shimaji, thanks a lot for joining, and I'll pose your question to Ursula in a while. First, there is a question by Hassan Falak to our Iranian panelists. The question is, I read it, there is no organized left force in Iran for now. How are we going to reconcile this against the mullah regime? That's a grave challenge for the left. So,
do you want me to start the answer or the first question?
No,
and then
it's to our Iranian panelists. And then there is a question by Shima. I'll come to you in a while. And be very brief with your questions, please, because we are really running short of time. Comrade Spare, you want to go first this time?
I didn't get the question.
The question is that there is no organized left in Iran. How can we oppose the mullah regime from outside of Iran? How we can build solidarity with the people?
No, what I said that regarding the ongoing war, we have to set up a campaign against the war running on Iran. I didn't say changing the regime. I am aware of the problem, but the important thing, I am not sure that everybody is aware of what was happening before the beginning of the war. There was a period before the war, 3 or 4 months before the recent war. There was a period of increasing the struggle in Iran, class struggle in Iran. There was struggle there was hundreds of strikes in the factories in Iran. The biggest strike since 40 years was running just 3 months before the war, and later that the Iran universities were very active in this direction. What happens? The beginning of the war stopped all the cross struggles, and everything is returned to what happened 3 years ago. That's why I'm saying I'm not saying that we can go from abroad. From abroad, we cannot change the regime. What we can do, the first thing is to stop the war, and then we can continue. Once the war is finished, we can continue the class struggle in Iran. And every we are not like Netanyahu or Trump that he said people come to the on the bomb come to the street. It's not like that. Everybody in Tehran is leaving the city. Is going to find a refuge place to not to be killed. This is an illusion that under the war we can make a revolution. Especially on Iran, that there is no organized left, there is no organized syndicate, there is no organized any social movement. Each country has own situation. We cannot generalize the story to every other place. That's not what I said that at the moment the urgent point is to go in the direction of stopping the war.
Thank you very much. Comrade Nasrin, do you have anything to add?
Excuse me, I have a question from
sure.
anybody from Pakistan can answer that. The first I heard that there was a huge manifestation against the war in front of the U.S. embassy in Pakistan, and a lot of people were killed. Is anybody can explain or give me more information about that?
I will refer the question to Dr. Sabah. Dr. Sabah, you can respond in a while briefly, but first I want to bring in Shima Kirmani's question to Ursula. Ursula, Shima Kirmani ji is asking from Karachi. She wants to know what is the situation of any women resistance movement in Afghanistan.
Thank you. And this is an excellent question indeed on the occasion of 8th of March. What I can say with regards to the women's movement inside Afghanistan is that women across the country, particularly in the remote and non-central areas, have continued to find workarounds and to continue their struggle against the Taliban. So there goes different lines of sort of like situations. So if we speak in the formal sense, there is almost ban, everyone knows it's universal across the country, ban on education above the secondary school, ban on universities, ban on women's work, ban on women's travel up to a certain distance. So within the cities, you can see women going on their own, but as soon as they leave the city to go to somewhere else, 70 or so kilometers, they have to be accompanied by a close male relative or maharam, as we call it. So these are evident. So in the judicial sense, they have written laws now. It's all like gazetted and officialized that the gender apartheid or the discrimination against women is very clear by the legal sense. So this is the official line of the state behavior towards women. So then there is the in-betweeners that are the civil society registered organizations trying their best to deliver aids and assistance and support to women. So they find a way of like workarounds and trying to basically find solutions in the local senses, because it's obvious that not a lot of Taliban believe in what their top leadership is asking them. So with that understanding, they find a way of allowing women to continue to congregate, gather, and discuss their rights, discuss their struggle and their movement. And then comes the political side of the movements. You see that actions and activism has never stopped. Women are being put in prison because of their activism. And we know, and I agree that the situation in every country is different, but for Afghan women, for a karate, women karate instructor to organize a small class of teaching girls to how to sort of like exercise their sports is a struggle as equal as to ask for very like trade union level, rights, because that is the fundamental right that she is missing. So we've had situations of these women being arrested, for example, for practicing their, sports or practicing their or gathering to organize, for example, 8th of March. On this day, if someone is having just a social gathering in Afghanistan, like a birthday or anything, that could be raided by Taliban. It's a potential for families, and it happened in the past because Taliban are very much paranoid about these kind of celebrations or these kind of like gathering of women together in one place. We've seen that in the past. So in the form of the types of resistance is different. So in the forms of public demonstrations, because of the suppression level is reduced, but the women are turning their homes and their family houses and their virtual existence into frontline for struggle for their rights, and that is continuing. And outside Afghanistan, also, just to finish, I know time is short now, also some innovative systems of advocacy or mechanisms for advocacy have also emerged this last year. I was part of People's Tribunal for the first time in the recent history, of course, in the late 70s and early 80s. Also, it happened. Afghan women have filed a case against the Taliban in the Permanent People's Tribunal, and we've had a good international level coverage for that, trying to bring the issue of women's systematic discrimination by Taliban into the international platforms, although this is not having a direct sort of result, but at least for the people's memories and for future use of references, we have a strong indictment document worth of, I think, 80 so pages that is systematically explaining the violations of the international laws and the rules that the Taliban are setting up. So I think these are the international examples and also national ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 8 minutes left. I will now ask Dr. Sabah to answer the question posed by Comrade Hoshang, but also at the same time sum up whatever she wants to sum up in 2 minutes, and then I'll ask other comrades to sum up the debate in 2 minutes that they will have to sum up. So over to you, Dr. Sabah.
So I just wanted to say that yes, people have been killed. Some have been shot at by the Marines in the US consulate. That has come out in the Joint Investigation Committee. And of course, mostly our own police has shot them. And this was in retaliation for the protests over US-Israeli attack on Iran. And after that, I saw in the paper that US staff was told to leave Pakistan. So that's about it. There's a lot, I mean, across the country, most people are feeling very, very upset about what is going on. And now, of course, fuel prices have surged a lot in Pakistan, which means food prices will go up, which further means that ordinary people are going to be terribly affected because our people below poverty line, the percentage is very, very high now. Also, Balochistan used to get Iranian oil through smuggling, in which, of course, our own security institutions were involved and were making a lot of money. And that has also stopped. And Iran has formally announced that it cannot send any vegetables or fruits to any of the neighboring countries. So that is also going to put pressure on people, especially in our impoverished Balochistan province. So that's the situation. I'll quickly wind up what I had to say. I have said, but the in a 1 minute thing, all I can say is that wars don't help anyone. It has to be done through peace. I think war has gone on, conflict in different shapes, in different forms in neighboring Afghanistan, and it has blowback in Pakistan, not only for the people living along the borders, but also for the women of this country and for human rights in this country also. So it's not just something that's contained inside Afghanistan. It has blowback in Pakistan when Afghanistan had the right-wing mujahideen and everyone. We also got hudud ordinances in Pakistan. Now that they have declared slavery to be okay, we are worried in Pakistan that in our border areas, people will start selling children, both boys and girls. So these are worries for us. These things are not isolated. They cross borders. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sabah. Nasrin, if you hear me, could you kindly sum up in 2 minutes? Or maybe we have lost
Yeah,
Nasrin.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Over to you. I'm sorry for the little time left.
it's okay. I think, yeah, I don't know how much more I can say. I think right now there's a lot of feelings of powerlessness, but I think the reason these oppressions keep finding ways to crack down on even the slightest dissent is because there's a certain fragility in it. And that I don't know exactly what the way forward is, but I imagine that if they were completely in control and completely confident, then they would be not needing to crack down on all these little expressions of dissent. And so, yeah, I just really hope that in the long term we can build a movement. I know a question earlier that said, there's no organized left in Iran right now. Well, I think the solution to that is to organize the left. And I think a lot of the progress and the movements that we had have been repressed. I think there's always little openings, there's always people looking for answers, and there's a lot of anti-war voices. So I think if we ignore the polarizations and even disrupt the polarizations of pro-intervention monarchists and also the answer coalition strategy of just apologizing for the regime. If we disrupt that and start to gain some of their members and build trust, we can build a new coalition. And I hope that with time, care, and patience, we can find the ways to do that. And I hope that this conversation will be the first of many where people are starting to build new coalitions, dealing with the grief of the past, and then still finding hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comrade Hoshan Sapeher.
I would like to ask a question from the comrades from Afghanistan. If you know any woman, Afghan woman in Paris who speaks French, please give me his name and telephone number, because we organize sometimes we organize the meeting with the people of region over the women's question, and we are hard to find a Afghan woman for our discussion who speaks English, French, excuse me, who speaks French. That's all I would like to say. That if anybody speaks French, I can send our publication in French. I have some article in English, but mainly I produce a French language period for Iran. Okay.
Ursula, you got actually less than 1 minute, but you may take 2 minutes. You can answer Comrade Hoshang as well. And then will be great if you sum up in, say, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I fully agree that this is a great start. I hope that we can have more of these talks, at least to build up this and strengthen this relationship in practice, as I was mentioning at the beginning. So to conclude, with regard to the current Afghanistan and Pakistan tension, I desire for a situation that's at least there is an agreement for an immediate end to the violence. There is a full, if we as the democratic, movements or individuals or groups in both countries come up with this pressure and try to sort of like communicate this nationally in both countries, that public, humiliation or these things are not the way forward. We are neighbors, and neighbors are tend to build up a constructive solution in one way or another. So an immediate call here is to at least not stop the violence of this phase and wait for another one to emerge one time, but at least to make an agreement that the borders, the trading relationship should not be affected by the politics of who's in power and whether they listen to each other or not. So trades needs to be depoliticized to allow people to live in these kind of deep crises that we are. I also, with regards to the answer to question with the France, I have to say that like probably Iranians, Afghans are also spread all over the world. So including France, there are very dedicated and strong women rights activists. I don't know many in person or in contact, but I can look up and find and share through Farouk by some contacts with you. I think overall, my conclusion for this panel is that the key for us moving forward from this point is to strengthen the solidarity among the women's movement, about the progressive thinkers of this region, because we need to sort of like build upon what has been built here historically in the long history or the recent history of our region. We need to regain as much as we can, and that can only be done to start to move from talking to practice and doing things in practical steps that can really change the situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ursula. Like always, you were articulate and, very disciplined. This very first effort by us in Pakistan will not stop here, regardless of our marginality, regardless of our small forces. We will try to build this solidarity. In the past, both comrades in Afghanistan and Pakistan have been working together, and I think we will be able to build bridges with our comrades inside Iran and with Iranian diaspora. And diaspora, in the case of all these three countries, have a big role to play. And definitely we will be able to devise better methods to build this solidarity, and this should become a platform to build global solidarity. I will thank all the panelists, and I will thank all the participants for joining us and enlightening us. Let me end this webinar here, and let's hope to stay in touch, not just the panelists, but also our participants. Thank you, everyone.
Let me finish this meeting with the
Sure. Please go ahead.
Three
Comrade
words.
Hoshan, go ahead.
Let me finish this meeting with 3 words. Women, life, liberty.
Yes.